everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. All right, time to pull up a brew and take a sip. No, we are not selling Record-ology coffee. This isn't even coffee, even though it looks like it. It is actually Caffex, not a sponsor, but I'm trying to go totally caffeine free. So there are a couple of companies that make sort of these chicory, dissolve in hot water, fake coffee mixes, and you could put cream in there, kind of get the caffeine experience without the caffeine, or the coffee experience without the caffeine, I should say. I've been using this on and off for years. I was going whole hog into caffeine over the last few months, and it kind of caught up with me. My body does not like an overabundance of stimulants. So we're going decaf, not even decaf. Decaf still has caffeine. We're going caffeine free. But that's not why you clicked on this video. It's because of this. This is the Fosi ZD3 preamp, and more importantly, DAC. You're not going to want to miss this. Okay, back in the studio again, back on the DAC kick. This is the Fosi ZD3 preamp and DAC. Spent the day today again listening to my other Fosi DAC, the one that we reviewed recently. It turns out it's more for gaming than hi-fi usage, although it's kind of for everything. It's kind of an all-in-one DAC, but a lot of people like to use it for gaming, which is cool. I'm not a huge gamer in that sense, but I thought we would check this one out. This is more of a typical desktop DAC unit. This could also work in a hi-fi if you're putting together a system, like a larger scale system by your TV, or if you have like a dedicated listening space. It's got the, the big display there. It's designed to be seen across the room and all that good stuff. This has been getting a lot of praise in the community. Also, the reviews are stellar on this. It's only $170, which, considering the competition, is quite extraordinary. Also, considering the fact that, 10, 15 years ago, standalone DACs were just not available at this price point, from what I understand. Some call this chi-fi. Some people call it budget hi-fi. Some people call it fun-fi. But the fact that these products are becoming available at the entry level again, or now, I should say, not again, is a good thing. Because if it was, still $1,500 for something like this, I'm showing you everything and assuming you know what it is, I probably wouldn't be reviewing it, because this is an entry-level channel. We got a button cell remote here, a membrane remote. I don't mind these, but I have 400,000 that look 98% identical. And I'm getting to the point now where I'm going to have to start labeling these like an old man losing his mind. In here, we've got a Bluetooth antenna, and then here is the device. But yeah, to be able to experiment with separates again in a kind of a modern way with these little miniature boxes, and they all feel good, like construction wise, they all feel quality. That's not necessarily representative of what's going on inside, but they don't feel plasticky because they're not plastic. All these little amps and preamps and things are just, they feel substantial. This is a metal alloy body, and it feels good. Nice matte finish, by the way. I like the rounded corners. There is a matching amplifier that goes with this. I don't have that. I'm not planning on getting that. As you guys know, I live in a world of active speakers. I use powered speakers almost exclusively. So for me, I don't need the amplifier part. I've got a couple of pocket amps, they're called, but small amps, but it's really nothing that I need on a day-to-day basis. I don't use a receiver. I don't use amplifiers like that. I like the integrated speaker design. So, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to review this out of the box, but that's totally unfair when it comes to a device like this. I can do a direct feed for you, but it's going to be meaningless with the YouTube lossy compression. So I'm going to do what I did with the last DAC we reviewed, and I'm going to unbox it. We're going to test out its functionality here in the studio. Then I am going to live with it for a period of time, a number of days. And I'm going to report back to you later on in this video after that time has expired and let you know what my thoughts are and if I could hear any difference and what the difference was. Now, there's a lot of parameters that go into what can I hear, and that, everything from the CD player I'm using, the transport, the the powered speakers, the amplifier, the settings, the cables, all kinds of things. Environmental factors probably play into it too, who knows. But let's start with just a cursory tour of the device itself. So the front panel, we have this nice round display. So I saw this other channel and he opened this up and it's actually a square LCD screen or whatever display technology it is. So it's not, I don't think it's a real smartwatch. It may be a smartwatch display. I'm not 100% sure. But the design is great with this tapered part right here. We've got the signature orange, kind of metallic orange knob. That is an aluminum knob, stepped. It's also a button with a micro switch under there as well. There were like 300 of these when this first came out earlier this year. I'm kind of behind the 8 ball on this. Everybody else reviewed this like earlier this year. But they had an exclusive knob, like it had a design on it, and it came with some op amps. This actually has swappable op amps. If you want to open it up, you can, and you have the right, op amp tweezers, you can replace the op amps yourself. I will not be doing that. It's definitely above my pay grade. I don't have any business swapping op amps. Definitely, we're a beginner channel. We're kind of stretching our territory just even looking at something like this. But I do love it. It's a lot of fun. And it is, as far as these go, this is entry level. So it is, this is on brand for us. Down here, there's a bypass switch. And some folks reviewing this weren't sure what that is. That's actually to bypass the preamp functionality. So we're going to put it into bypass mode because I don't have a need for a preamp. That'll just basically give you volume control on the source. Well, my volume control is going to be on the speaker side. So I don't have a need to do that. And from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know you will, typically when you have a preamp volume control, isn't it 100% of that volume control will just be the line level, right? You're not actually amplifying at that stage. If anything, you're detracting volume if you turn it down. So 100% is line level. If I'm not right, please point that out, but that's my feeble understanding. Let's take a close look though at this back panel and look at the connectivity we have here. Okay, so we have XLR balanced outputs. We have unbalanced RCA outputs. We have a coax in. We have an optical in. We have a USB in. We have an HDMI ARC in. We've also got an in and out 12 volt trigger connection and obviously the 12 volt power supply as well, and the Bluetooth antenna plug. So that's what you've got on the back. People that I've seen look at this are impressed with the fact that this price point you get the balanced outputs. I personally agree. I think you run an XLR, you're pro grade at that point. But for me, in what level of stuff I'll be using it for will definitely be RCA. So, you can maximize the potential. This has an ability to scale with you. So I'm doing optical in and RCA outputs. But if, you really wanted to be fancy and go coax in for, some people arguably say that's a little bit better, especially over distance. And then the XLR balanced outputs, you could get a little bit better sound quality with this, and you can scale it by hot swapping those op amps inside, which is really, really cool. Again, I won't be doing that. I'll be happy with whatever this thing does, like out of the box. Hey, what's up? It's me in the future jumping in here real quick. Don't worry, we'll get you back to your regularly scheduled programming. I just wanted to share a couple of things with you and get your ideas on something. In terms of your ideas, would you be interested in us offering this? This is a nice, fluffy felt platter mat with sort of a retro orange Record-ology logo. I think this is really cool. We've had a couple of these made, kind of test the quality and the design. I think they turned out really well. As I've said recently, I've been kind of having a renaissance of loving felt mats, where I didn't really care for them that much before. But I thought this was kind of a cool design. And I remember we mentioned this recently on the Luna 3 turntable review. By the way, I still have 2 of those turntables, but they've sort of asked me to wait for the production model, so I'm resisting the temptation to tear into the second box. Anyway, let me know if you guys think that that would be cool. And then also a reminder about this upcoming awesomeness. This is our gift box. We're calling this our spring, no, it's not spring, it's fall into vinyl box sets. They go on sale September 1st. And there's 20, and once the 20 are gone, they are gone. Now, you may be saying, what's the big deal? One of the big deals is we are offering this cool combo of adapters. It's a Style 1 in this orange color and a Style 2 in this yellow. Very kind of orangey, fallish, 70s colors here. I love the color palette that we have here at Record-ology, but they'll come in this little pouch here with some shredding. We are also selling our very own Record-ology brush kit, and these are super, super neat. So it's a felt padded brush, and then if you lift the lid here, there's 2 additional brushes. One is a stylus carbon fiber brush, and then a brush for the brush to keep the felt clean, and you also get a little microfiber, a very high quality. We picked the finest we could find microfiber cloth as well. So it's sort of a little cleaning kit, and there may be a sticker or 2 in there. These boxes are individually numbered, as you can see down there in the corner with the Record-ology branding. And again, once they're gone, they're gone. 20 only, and basically just look at eBay, the eBay store where we sell our adapters. Look there on September 1st and make sure to get yours and help support the channel. All right, now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Full disclosure, it did power on when I plugged it in. So I turned it off so we could share that moment together. I'll be using the remote control off camera and to do so you don't have to look at my fingers. And let's hit the power button on the remote. Hey, guess what? I bet there's no batteries in here. Yeah, okay, stand by for that. All right, batteries make a very positive difference. By the way, here are the functions of the remote. Some of them I can tell just by looking at them. Some of them I'm going to be learning as I experiment. It's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so again, let's see what this thing looks like brightness-wise just with all these studio lights on. See if we can see it. To the naked eye, it looks very crisp, very, very bright. And on camera, it looks pretty good as well. So I am going to attempt to zoom in even further for you to see the screen a little bit more clearly, and we will kind of surf through the functionality. Okay, it looks much more sharp and clear to the naked eye than it does on camera. It kind of looks foggy on camera, but it's really not. Okay, so the upper left-hand corner, it looks like we have the sample rate, 44.1K. That would be like CD sample rate. On the top right, we've got the input, which is coaxial at the moment. The bottom left, PCM, is the type of audio we're receiving. And then at the bottom right, that really doesn't show up on camera, but that is a dark orange section with white letters, very clear to the naked eye, that says volume. So let me start with this button, I believe has to do with the display. Okay, so that will dim, or basically it'll turn off the display or not. There's a mute functionality right there. Looks a little bit better from this angle. Let's see what else. So we got the Bluetooth functionality. So if I hit Bluetooth, it's going to want to pair. And let's go ahead and pair it to my phone to see how it behaves. And connect it. So let's see what it does for lossless. Now you won't be able to hear anything, and neither will I. I am merely doing this as a test for the display and what we see there. Okay, so it is playing audio right now. It shows AAC. That's because it's coming from the Apple Music. It says none in the upper left, which is interesting. So if I switch back to coax, it goes to the 44.1K. Okay, for those of you interested in the specifications, rather than me rambling it off, I'm going to go ahead and put it up on the screen here. It'll show you the sampling rate for the different inputs and other metrics that it has, including total harmonic distortion, dynamic range, noise floor, all of that good stuff. Bluetooth is on a 5.0 foundation, and it supports SBC, AAC, aptX, and aptX HD. So lossy formats on Bluetooth, but it can still sound really good. And there you go. So there's the spec sheet over here. We've got the contents that we already verified are indeed in the box. By the way, packaging was on point, I thought. As always, seems like everybody's packaging is on point these days. So that's about all I have to say about this at this point. So after I stop this video, I'm going to turn off the studio lights and amble into the office where I will be removing the other preamp and installing this one for a day of listening fun tomorrow. And I will be back with you in the very next clip telling you my thoughts. It is indeed the next day, and I have done a whole heck of a lot of listening to this thing, and I want to share my thoughts with you. But first, check it out. I want to show you where I put it, which is the exact same place that the K7 was previously. And it's connected to my Sony 5-disc CD changer via optical. And you know, one thing that I kind of surprised myself with this is I spoke earlier about how it has a preamp functionality, and it uses attenuation to basically pull back on the signal and give you volume control. So 100%, or as it shows on the screen here, 80 is actually line level. So anything you back it off in terms of volume control is just attenuating the signal. I actually enjoyed that. I kind of kept that in place. So I set the bypass off and actually enjoyed that volume knob there, which is really good because the Fluence speakers that I use have stepped volume, and sometimes you want the volume in between two steps. So if you want the volume somewhere in between, having a preamp with a volume control is very handy, especially one like this that has a fluid volume control. So I think I should kind of go over what my setup is here so you can kind of know the use case and specifically know any limitations, and there are some in my particular setup, and there will be in anybody's setup. There will be little intricacies that impact the sound quality, either in a good way or a bad way. And I've got both of those things happening with mine. So the DAC is going through a mechanical switch and into my Fluence AI61 powered speakers. Now, the powered speakers are beautiful. They're the best powered speakers I've ever heard, and I love them, and that's why I'm using them. They're so rich, the bass is so deep that in this setup, I don't even need a subwoofer. The subwoofer's off in another part of the house in a different setup, and it's pure rich sound, and I absolutely love it. Well, like many active speakers, these, or powered speakers, means the same thing. These have a DSP, so there's some digital signal processing at play, and that has a tendency to sort of correct things and normalize things. And so the differences, if any, in devices sometimes get smoothed over and sort of evened out a little bit. That being said, you can still hear differences, and I was able to in this case as well. What I'm trying to get at is that if you were to use a regular amplifier and passive speakers, you may realize a little bit more differences when comparing equipment. But that's what I've got, and it works really well for me. And let me just skip to the good part and say that this thing sounds amazing. It's a fantastic sounding DAC. In fact, I would say that it's better than the K7 here that we previously reviewed. This is really, really cool. Now, this is more expensive. I think this is like $200, $190 something. The ZD3 is only $170. So by comparison, it's a little bit cheaper. I think that's because this guy here has the built-in headphone amplifier, whereas the ZD3 does not. And again, in this setup, I don't really need that. Now, to compare them and contrast them a little bit, this uses an AKM chip, and the ZD3 uses an ESS chip. They're both Delta Sigma DAC, so it's the same basic technology, but both brands bring a little bit different sound signature. The AKMs are known to be a little bit more musical, whatever that means, a little bit more warm, more natural sounding, whereas the ESS chips are a little bit more clinical, but more accurate and more transparent. So that's kind of, and Techmon and I are in 100% agreement that it feels dumb to use audiophile words to try to articulate what something sounds like. It sounds good, okay? The K7, which uses that AKM chip, sounded good, and I did notice an improvement against the built-in Sony 1-bit DAC. If you remember that show, 1-bit DAC versus a modern AKM DAC. And we noticed a difference. There was more clarity, kind of a separation of everything, kind of spread out, wider sound stage, more clarity, more sparkle, and by comparison, the 1-bit DAC sounded just a tad dull. That's doing an A/B test, switching back and forth with my mechanical switch. And if you weren't doing that, if you were to like listen to one, go take a shower and come back and listen to two, would you be able to tell a difference? Probably not, right? Probably not. You need to really be able to do the A/B switch. So these are not astronomical differences. If you are listening to a 1-bit DAC, a vintage DAC, and you're like, man, I'm missing out because of that, don't be too upset, because these, even what I'm about to talk about in terms of the ZD3, are fairly minimal differences, at least on my setup, okay? Now, by comparison, the ZD3 had very similar impression upon me. It was a wider sound stage. It was more sparkle, more clarity. By comparison, the 1-bit DAC was a little quieter and a little duller, just like the AKM chip and the other device. But I would say that this was a bit more so. If I remember correctly, I said the percentage of improvement with this guy over the built-in 1-bit DAC on the Sony was somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 to 3%. And I would say that this is in the neighborhood of 3 to 5%. So just a little bit more pronounced in its improvement. And the improvement was, again, that clarity, that separation, that sense of air and space, and a little bit more oomph in the bass, which I was kind of surprised because the ESS Saber DAC isn't known for, you know, its sort of warm profile. So the output stage, some other circuitry that Fosi, whatever it's called, is employing here may be responsible for that. I do like the form factor. I think of this a little bit better over this. I thought I would like this one better because, and if it was down here by my keyboard, I probably would, but in the rack, it was kind of awkward trying to, you know, tilt my head over and look at that. Plus, it had functionality that I didn't really need in terms of the headphone amplifier. So for now, between the two, even though it's cheaper, I'm going to go with this guy. All right, my friends, and that's going to do it. I think that's a good deal. $170 for a preamp and a DAC that uses the ESS chips, which, again, I've only heard one AKM chip, but so far I'm leaning towards the ESS side of the house. I know other people have different opinions. I've heard Sirius Logic chips. I've heard Burr Brown chips. I've heard Wolfson DACs. I've heard, you know, in-house Sony DACs, AKM, and, you know, a few of them. I haven't heard everything. I still need to hear a modern R2R DAC. I know FIO has a crazy deal on an R2R DAC. I just haven't got my hands on it yet. And then obviously you've got the 16-bit DACs of the 80s. I do have one unit with that's my Sony boombox. So as I've listened to all of these, I'm kind of like the bright, fresh, and spacious sound that the ESS chips give you. And again, this has that included. And don't forget that the op amps are hot swappable. If you like to swap op amps and try different ones, they even on their website recommend different op amps for different sound profiles and different music types, which is pretty interesting. That's sort of beyond my pay grade, especially right now. I haven't really researched or learned much about op amps. I know what they do, but beyond that, I couldn't tell you what's a good one, what's a bad one. But I've heard people that do know say that the stock op amps are just fine. So going with that knowledge, I think that this is a good investment. If I had to choose between not having this or having this, I would definitely choose to have it. However, if you can't afford it, and if the idea of an external amp is just out of your price range, don't freak out. You can still totally enjoy the clarity and purity of compact discs on whatever you have. Even the cheapest CD players sound good, in my opinion. I've even talked about this before, that the gap between good CD players and bad CD players is much more narrow than bad record players and good record players. So there's that to consider as well. But if you have budget for it and you have an interest in fine-tuning it, there is a little extra something to be had by getting a separate DAC. And hopefully this show's been entertaining and enjoyable. And I just want to say a huge thank you to you for being there. You guys are awesome. But that's going to do it for today. So happy record hunting, and we'll see you next time.